You're having to conserve water in areas that have tremendous amount of water. This is about conservation, it's about restriction, it's about restricting your ability to use your land and water. And this is the goal of this plan. So here in San Francisco, in my area, they want to, actually, we get all of our water from Hetch Hetchy, which is a companion valley to Yosemite Valley. It's like a mirror valley. Well, they dammed it back in the early 1900s, and they filled it with 117 billion gallons of water. And that's the water for San Francisco, for the Bay Area. But guess what? This year, in November, on the ballot in San Francisco, is a plan to take down the Hetch Hetchy Dam and free that river and free that beautiful valley so that it can be restored, so that Bambi can get together with Bambo. That's what it's all about. So guess what, though? Who's in favor of this? Who wants this? On one side are Republican lawmakers and environmentalists. Ronald Reagan's former Interior Secretary who want the dam removed and the valley restored. Now look at the rhetoric that he uses. This is Don Hodel, right? Former head of the Department of Interior. He says, listen to this. This is what he said. This is how they use their rhetoric and manipulation. He says, I think it will be hard to quell this idea of restoration. It's like ideas of freedom in a totalitarian regime. Once planted, they are impossible to repress forever. How about that? Who wants to stop this crazy plan? The Democrats. Why? Because it's their area. Feinstein, Pelosi, they're all from Boxer, they're all from San Francisco. They're like, wait a second, wait, we didn't mean that. You know, don't do that. That's our water. No, the Wildlands is a plan to remove humans and human activity from rural and suburban areas. And I call it the no-pay APA, right? Regulatory takings is what it's all about. View sheds, ridge lines, biotic resources, scenic, streamside thresholds, restrictions on your use, and not paying you. Destroying your ability to live free and independent. That's what it's about. You bring people into the city centers. You know what? How many people from the city centers know really where their food comes from? I mean, really. And have ever had, it's this thing about, you know, rural, the thing about suburban farms on your front yard, right? This is ridiculous, right? This is, what are you going to get, a few tomatoes? We're not talking about, these are people who think that they actually are deluding themselves, that they're going to grow something on their front yard, on their 1,000 square foot front yard, that they're going to be able to eat, like for more than about 2 days, right? And then, so then they think about you. You think they feel sorry for you? You're losing your land rights. They're in an apartment, a 500 square foot apartment on the 7th floor, and they're worried about you and your land rights. They're like, oh, you're a pig. You got all this land. What are you doing with all this? What do you need all this land for? What do you need all this land for, right? What do you need all this land for? You don't need it. Right? And your land, and then they have this fantasy about vertical farming. Have you guys checked that out? Vertical farming. It's farming in a parking structure. Yes, that's right. Farming in a parking structure. Cool idea. Yeah. Fantasy. This is not about reality. This is about taking enough people who are in cities, enough people who've lost their property or never had it to begin with, who don't care about property rights because they don't have any. And this is about social equity. No one should have more than anyone else. We should all have equal access and equal ability and equal ownership. And that means no private ownership. So here's what it is. The only economy we're going to have is taxes, fines, fees, lawsuits, and government grants. Right? Agenda, that's a government grant. Agenda 21 is a plan to produce social equity by impoverishing populations and creating total dependence on government. It is a corporatocracy. This is a corporatocracy. And using, knock that off, snap out of it. Using the center, you listen to me here, using the center, you, that's you. Using the cover, this is how it works. Okay? This is where it's at. This is the bottom line. Using the cover of environmentalism, the rigid control of a totalitarian state is in progress right now. Right now. That is what's behind the green mask. That is it. It is an abuse of our trust. It is a hijacking of the environmental movement. This is it. They are using the USA Patriot Act, Senate Bill 1867, the National Defense Authorization Act. This is what this is about. FBI surveillance now. They don't need a warrant for your hotel records, your bank records, your internet records, or your telephone records. This is what a totalitarian state looks like. We need to know. What's my favorite public-private partnership? Because that's fascism, right? Public-private partnership. What is it? What is it? It's prisons. Privately owned prisons. What do prisons need? Prisoners. How do you get more prisoners? You make more things crime. And you extend the terms. Right? That's what they've done, right? And guess what? We've got a porous border, little catch and release program, right? They spend a little 6 months in prison before they get deported, very often. Who gets the money for that? That's a lot of money for that porous border, isn't it? Prisons. How about this? You are going to demand, you're going to wait, and, gone to an airport lately, right? Go to an airport. I have to go to an airport, I have to wait, I have to go half an hour early because of this. I refuse to do this, right? I won't walk through the little hokey pokey machine. I'm not doing that. I suggest you don't either. You've got to go early. Now, I stand there like this. And first of all, they go, pat down. Woman wants a pat down. Pat down over here. Woman, pat down, pat down. Woman wants a pat down. I'm standing there in my little socks, People are walking by. They don't want to look at me. They're not making eye contact with me, right? No, they don't. I've been cut out of the herd. I don't exist anymore. No, I try and look at them. They don't look at me. I'm bad. So I'm standing there. Okay, here comes the woman. So I'm like, okay, all right. So I know I'm guilty. I did something, right? So I stand there like this, and she's got her hands on me, and I look at her, and I go, so, is this all you can think of to do for a living? So is this all you could think of to do for the money? Have you asked yourself if there's anything you're not willing to do for the money? Have you asked yourself how far you'll go for them? Well, that keeps me there for an extra half hour. So that's the plan, right? Guess what, though? If you want to go around now, they make the lines longer and longer. If you want to avoid that line, I took this. I stole this from the airport. It says, why wait in line at the airport? Try Clear Free, 2 months. What does it cost? It's $179 a year. $179 a year to get your biometrics and your fingerprints. So you just look at the machine, put your fingers down, and you go through. Oh, I am so cool. I'm like a VP, man, VIP. I am just so cool. I just went right through. Right? You're going to ask for it. Biometrics. Talk about IBM. Who is doing this plan, right? Who's doing this plan? IBM. You know about IBM. Now, I'll tell you about IBM. IBM was guilty of trading with the enemy, of actually trading with the enemy during World War II. Yes, they made the punch cards, they made the computers, they made it possible for Hitler to track every single person that he controlled. Those numbers on the arms were not you're number 1, you're number 2, you're number 3. They were you are this race, you come from this area, you're going to this camp. This is what the numbers were. That system was designed for Hitler by IBM. IBM had a wholly owned subsidiary in Germany. IBM is doing biometrics right now, and they're doing the smart grid. IBM is completely tied in with this. Now, all totalitarian states share the same characteristics. And I'm telling you this because you need to know. Because this is what it looks like. I told you it doesn't come with flashing lights. This is what it looks like. All totalitarian states share the same characteristics, right? What? Total control of property and means of production. Total information. Surveillance. Is that a drone? Loss of free speech. Consensus, right? Loss of free speech and restricted movement. You don't need a private vehicle because you're going to be on that train line, whether it exists or not, going to, how about this, right? In California, high-speed rail, they're taking a lot of money for high-speed rail. Well, they haven't built it yet. In fact, it's getting out to 2035 or something, but they've decided to build one little piece of that high-speed rail from Fresno to Bakersfield. Well, why? It's because it's flat. But what is that? It's from nowhere to nowhere. With your tax dollars.
It goes to Los Auschwitz.
Yes, right. This land is flat, and so they say, well, we can build this. This is about, high-speed rail is designed to fail. It's about taking your tax dollars and sinking them. This is about collecting your money and sinking it. It's about public-private partnerships where there are a few cronies who benefit. So this is a totalitarian state. They also share the same philosophy, right? A shared philosophy of totalitarians. It's all for the common good. The individual is selfish, right? And we have the Spartan present. The Spartan present. You have to restrict, conserve. You're too fat. Obesity is going to be a crime, right? You're going to lose your kid if you have an obese kid. We're talking about restricting use, restricting ability, restricting water use, energy, food, creating scarcity, and creating pressure. This is part of totalitarianism. Also, the vision of the glorious future. Oh, it's going to be so great. It's never going to rain or snow, no matter where you live. You're going to be on your bike all the time. You'll be downstairs in the downstairs coffee shop drinking coffee because you're not going to have a job. So nobody's going to have to work. There goes the train. There it is. This is your life, okay? What else do they share in common? Terror. The war on terror is a war on you. This plan is about creating the threat of terrorism. And if there is no threat of terrorism, well, we'll just create a few terrorist groups to scare you so that we can justify surveilling, managing, manipulating, and controlling every aspect of your life. Terror is an integral part of a totalitarian state. Now, what are totalitarian states? Communism. What's the experience? Communism, fascism, and Nazism. It's all for the fatherland, all for the homeland. That's right. It's all for the common good. So who's doing it to you? You've got it right here, right here. City of Bellevue. Neighborhood forums at City Hall, sharing responsibility for the common good. Common good works. Vision for stewardship and communal responsibility. Who are the sponsors? The City of Bellevue and a dozen neighborhood associations. How about this one? You've got Margaret Pegler. She's on the Seattle City Council. She was for 10 years. She's also on the executive board of ICLEI. Now, she's on the Central Puget Sound Growth Management Hearing Board until 2016. Right? This is how they do it. Hillary France, she was the Bainbridge Island councilwoman who last October became the executive director of FutureWise. How about Kathy Lehman? She was recently elected councilperson in Bellingham. She was FutureWise's chapter director.